Hello again, Sandwich. I'm Greg Anderson. It is nice to see you again. We are continuing our discussions with candidates who are running for office on the May 5th Election Day ballot. I hope you show up and vote. Today, we are talking about that four-way race for 2 seats open on the Board of Selectmen. In fact, just the way I described it is going to be up for discussion in our conversation with Patrick Ellis. Patrick, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, so this would be your third non-consecutive term on the Board of Selectmen.
Yes.
What is bringing you back? What is bringing you back? I thought you were gone for good when you said goodbye last time.
No, I actually, I've always been motivated to be involved, but I really also like to accomplish something. And so I generally pick out topics things that's going on that motivates me. The first time around, it was Town Hall. I really thought that renovating the second floor of Town Hall was a really good thing. I didn't actually get it done in my term, but what I did do that influenced everyone was I convinced Frank Panorfi, who was on the board at the time, and Frank picked up the ball, and then of course drafted me to help, and then the town got behind the project, and everyone knows that. That was a real solid win. The next time around, I took an interest in the Clark Haddad building, which had been in multiple uses for the town, and was ripe for a preservation effort, and we succeeded in that. I'm really proud of that. So, and in this case, what kind of woke me up out of a little bit of a retirement sleep, short one.
Short one. Because you just retired as a super in Brewster.
Yeah, I spent 6.5 years in Brewster. Since the end of my last term, I didn't pursue re-election, went to work for Brewster as its superintendent of public works. I went there originally on a 6-month interim superintendent's position. They were moving from a position who had been there for a long time to a new one. I liked it so much that I stayed another 6.5 years. Brewster's a really nice town. It's the same size that Sandwich was when I became a superintendent here in 1986.
No kidding.
Still the 9,500 people. Brewster. It's a nice, real nice town.
So what makes a Patrick Ellis say, I'm going down to Taylor's office, I'm going to pull those papers, I'm going to do it again, I'm all in. What brought
I don't
you to
know,
that?
But I think it's family. I would say it's genetic.
Yeah, okay.
I would.
You're all crazy?
Yeah, I think we are all crazy.
Yeah, right.
If you go to Russ Lovell's book of Sandwich,
it
brings up our relative who was a lieutenant, John Ellis, and he married Edmund Freeman, one of the founders' daughters. He married Elizabeth Freeman right here in Sandwich in 1640 or some odd in that group. And Russ Lovell's mention of him in his book says that he was a military man, was known to be a bridge and road builder, and quickly became involved in town affairs. And that's 1600s.
Here's your legacy. Here's your legacy.
My father was Board of Health chair and clerk and others in Sandwich 33 straight years. So it's a family thing. We've always been involved. Rather than moan and groan about it, jump in. Help out.
Jump in and do something. So there's so much I want to talk to you about, Patrick. So in your comments, you had said that you felt that the town is kind of, the people in the employees of the town are running everything. Explain that to me.
Well, I think what I've observed is it seems like there's less public commentary among the board members about policy directions the town's taking. We just seem to be taking that without the dialogue that to me is really important. I want to see debate on the board. I want to see them back and forth, and I want to know that the elected officials own the decision. And I don't see that. I don't see them being involved in that. And
Can
to
you
me,
give
it's,
me an example?
I think the boardwalk's a good example.
Yeah.
Where the technical side of the boardwalk wasn't going to solve the problem. The heartstrings of the people in Sandwich that love the boardwalk is the problem. Those people, it doesn't fix it to make it a new modern structure for them. It takes that away.
Yeah.
And there are many examples. The road issues that we keep spending money on roads, but we don't improve the overall network condition of our roads.
So let's talk about that a little bit. You, by the way, this is your specialty.
Yep.
I mean, road work and understanding what it takes to keep towns' roads in good condition is something you know inside and out.
Yep.
Why are Sandwich roads so horrible?
Well, I think that they've made good progress in some ways in what's called full-depth reconstruction.
Okay.
That the roads that they pick out, they do full-depth reconstruction where they're grinding the road down to gravel and putting back multiple layers of asphalt to get back to typically around 7-inch thick roads. And those roads are going to last virtually maintenance-free for a decade, and then will need some kind of a treatment within the first 20 years of their life. So the problem with that methodology is that you're leaving roads out in front of you unsealed that degrade faster than your ability to get there with the full depth treatment methodology. And it's hard. This is a known science, and in Sandwich, I became interested in this rather by default than by design.
Okay.
Because I once was accused by a finance committee member of being the monkey that got cut out of the tree, because my original training is in agriculture. I went to University of Mass to the Stockbridge School of Agriculture. Now, it's an intense program, and it teaches you a lot about largely soils. And interestingly enough, civil engineers don't learn a lot about soils like soil people do.
Yeah.
So I came into this as a person who was educated in park and tree maintenance and really wasn't a road expert. But I remember looking up at a town map during a snowstorm and knowing how much money I had to pave the town's roads and realizing that I was going to get fired if I didn't come up with a methodology to manage these roads, because our road mileage doubled from 1986 to 99.
Yeah.
So
there was a system you put in place.
We did, and we put in one of the first automated pavement management systems of any town. We were a pioneer in that. And it was that success here in Sandwich that was why I was recruited out of the job into the private sector.
Yeah.
So I spent those 10 years as the superintendent in Sandwich grooming this pavement management system from 86 to 96. And then in 96, I went to a private firm. And ultimately, in that private firm, I ended up being very successful selling to the cities and towns, and ended up buying the company, and then retired from that company when I was 55.
Yeah. So the prioritization of here's a street, here's a road, here's a this, here's a that. How do we move the shells around to make sure that, one, we've got the preventative maintenance underway, but also this one's got to move up to the priority list.
Yep.
Do we have that system?
Yeah, we have a good methodology for this, and we still use the same consultant that we used when I was here. I think it's just a matter of the selection process and setting those goals and objectives. Yeah. And I want to see the board take more of an interest in that. It's not rocket science. It's very simple asset management strategies that are easy to see, and I think that we don't need to do a lot of changes to it wouldn't be an overnight change.
Right.
But it would be using the same methodology we're using today, just flexing them in a different way. And we also need to fund the roads to a greater degree than we do.
So let's
It's our town's largest single capital asset.
Yeah.
It blows everything else away. If you add up the value of roads, it makes like school buildings look puny. It makes our public buildings.
Are we funding public works enough?
No. I would say no.
Okay.
And we've had other things that we've done during that time period where roads seem to get pushed off, and we don't have a consistent long-term. We've had road bonds and kept them for a year or two, and then retired the debt and came back. And this year, they're adding $650,000 to the DPW budget for roads, which anything is good.
Yeah.
But in particular with inflation, we were really going to be up against it.
The capital plan, the bond, heading to town meeting, if it receives a 2/3 majority vote, it goes on the ballot.
Yep.
Do you think it will go to the ballot?
I would hope so. Yeah, I would hope so. As far as the school buildings are concerned and the capital, it's essential that we keep those buildings in excellent condition. And the wing school is an experience that was not good, where we didn't keep it up.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, when we got the keys tossed to us, it wasn't useful to us for any further use.
Right.
So right now, it's key that we keep our buildings, because if our enrollment continues to decline, there may be a horizon 10 years hence where we don't need one of those 3 schools.
Yeah.
And if we can use it for another use and step right into it,
Yeah.
it would be a good thing.
Versus the wing school, which you can't use.
Yeah.
It's got to be something else.
Or even an example, the Clark Haddad building, which was
Right.
occupied by the school administration in Sandwich for 20 years. And we did nothing but let the building degrade, and when it was at a point where it needed to be renovated, they moved out. So having them move into the Human Services building is really good, because we've spent a lot of money moving the administration around over the last 30 years.
Yeah.
And for them to be in a permanent site will be a really good thing.
So you've sat up on that stage during some pretty contested town meetings.
Yes.
Do you feel that this is going to raise up and be a big, hotly contested issue at town meeting? And do you think it will ultimately pass on the ballot if it goes to the ballot?
I think it will ultimately pass. I think Sandwich has a good track record of following its leaders in making these kinds of repairs.
Yeah.
And I think it makes sense, the approach that they've taken. And one of the things about our capital programs is that all of them have been deferred. So none of them are new. So if something comes onto the capital forefront in Sandwich, it's 5 years old. By the time it gets introduced by a department head into the capital planning scheme, gets its review, probably doesn't make it the first year, maybe is close the second year, is supported the third, and then gets on the ballot. So we have so many compelling needs financially as a town that by the time something boils its way to the top like this, you can pretty much as a voter be assured that this has been vetted.
So Patrick, when you're looking at the Board of Selectmen right now, and you're watching them in action, what do you think? What's your observations of this group and how they've been doing?
Well, I think they've done well because they've been fortunate. This is probably the biggest spending spree that a board's been on in a long time. And it's not a fault of theirs. It's the fact that we made a great deal with the power plant. And credit is due to Bud Dunham, because Sandwich is a well-run town. And financially, in particular, a really well-run town. I mean, the fact that we can have $3 million worth of excess levy capacity right now is just remarkable. And it's a real credit to Bud. He's very conservative and very process-oriented, so we're fortunate. So when you watch the board, it's kind of a reflection of the staff. But you know, everyone approaches things differently. Boards take different approaches to everything from haberdashery to how they interact with each other on the
Right.
stage.
Did you see the latest board meeting, the one that really had that focus on the brewery?
I did.
Kind of that it became a little out of hand.
It did.
Why do you think it went so awry?
I don't know. I think that's something. Chairing a committee is a difficult task.
Mm-hmm.
Maintaining that kind of decorum in a meeting framework is difficult.
And you've been there.
And I've been there.
Yeah.
I mean, even to the extent that I've been chair and had to challenge people that, if you keep this up, you'll be removed from the room.
Yeah.
And also to let people know that we had a group come in one night and they were about an issue, I don't even remember what it was, but they were in the audience standing and then turning and facing the camera rather than facing our chairwoman at the time, who was actually Sue James, and I was vice chair.
Yeah.
And I had to interject and say, please sit down, be cordial.
Yeah.
We will hear you.
Yeah.
We may not always agree with you. I mean, that whole thing, you can't expect to show up at a board and have them agree with you instantaneously.
Right.
But I think one of the things, and I saw this in Brewster, the decorum is not what it was. When people go to meetings these days, they are not as respectful as they used to be. It's hard. People need to know that people who do this out of a love and a passion for a community and don't deserve to be treated that way.
Right.
And conversely, people who come before boards deserve that kind of respect as well.
We're running out of time. Let me ask you a couple of quick things.
Sure.
Recreational marijuana, yay or nay?
Yay.
Okay. You feel strongly about renaming the board.
Oh, I do. I went to Brewster 7 years ago, and we have a terrific chairwoman in Brewster, Mary Chafee, and she gave a presentation at the first town meeting that I went to in Brewster, and I don't remember all 12 of them, but I only remember a few of them, but she had 12 professions at that time that had been gender neutralized by title.
Yeah.
You don't say policeman anymore.
Yeah.
We don't say fireman anymore.
Yeah.
And she went right down the list and said, so we shouldn't say select man anymore, we should say select board. So I was absolutely surprised and somewhat appalled that my board, representing me in Sandwich, when it came before them, that they didn't universally accept this.
This did come before the board?
Yes, they had a discussion over it.
Oh, I didn't realize
Yes,
that.
and Susan James, who came before the board and spoke in opposition of changing it.
Interesting.
So it was interesting to me that would be, I just thought, gee, this is a no-brainer.
So you're gonna, if elected, you're going in.
Yeah, I'll just
for
go
that
in and
again.
make a motion, say, let's change this. I think by the time that happens, it'll be passé and we will have moved on
Yeah, right.
to something else.
So Patrick, real quick, tell me why someone's going to want to vote for you. Why is a vote for Patrick Ellis so important?
Because you need people who come to these boards with experience, commitment, and a strong leadership capability. What I'm most proud of in my experience is working with others. You know, I mentioned Frank Panoffi earlier. You know, Frank was older than I. Frank was a Republican. I was younger. I was a Democrat. We just blended because at the local level, party politics doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's about carrying forth and getting something done.
Yeah.
And that's why people should vote for me, because I'm used to working with people. I really like people. I don't, as you mentioned earlier, I don't mind the contested part of it. People, no one's going to like everything I do.
Right.
I expect
Can't
that.
win 100% of the time.
I expect that.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you, my friend.
oh, thank you, Greg.
Thank
It's
you
my
for coming
pleasure
in
to be
here. Thank you for joining us, and I hope this has been informational and helpful to you. Definitely go out and vote, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.
The views expressed in this program are the views of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the SCTV staff or board of directors.